Hello, my name is Metta and I'm an aspiring writer and creative working full-time as an engineer. I am currently writing my adult fantasy trilogy codenamed Project Side. I am on draft 5 of the first book and I'm hoping to finish it by the end of the year. I'm hoping to have a super productive writing weekend after being away from the book for a while. I have 26 chapters left, so we'll see how far I can get. But first, key. So I have my key ready and I've just been taking a quick look at the outline. I am going to be jumping into chapter 37, but apparently I only have 4 chapters left until the end of Act 2, so I'm going to see if I can try and finish this up today. Let's get started. I've just finished the second chapter of the day, which means that I've only got 2 chapters left before I can get into Act 3. I don't think I mentioned this earlier in the video, but I'm also going through beta reader feedback for this draft, and I thought it'd be interesting as I jump into chapter 39 to show you how I'm actually implementing that feedback and what I do to prepare to jump into a new chapter. So I'll be hiding away anything spoilery from here, but as you can see I've got this new chapter button that I can click, and we get a whole new section for chapter 39. And I've got 2 main things to fill in. I've got this check tracker for chapter specific items, which is my own tracker and the list that I've made while rereading the book. And then on the other side, I've got the names of my 3 beta readers, and for each of them I'm going through the document and writing out anything important that they say. And then the other thing I have on here is these 3 bits, which are names that have changed since the last draft. So every time I finish the chapter, I am doing a search for each of those and making sure that I've replaced them with the new variations of those. So for chapter 39, there's actually nothing in my own tracker that I need to worry about, so that can just stay empty. And then for my beta feedback, I've got 2 comments from Mars. So the first one is that one of my characters feels a bit out of character, which I don't think I'm going to be addressing here, because if he feels out of character, that means I haven't introduced him well enough earlier on. This is the character he's supposed to have. So this is something that was on my original list anyway, and I've done leading up to it, but it's just a reminder to have a proper look at him as I go through the chapter, even though I think this should have been fixed in earlier chapters anyway. And then the other comment that's important here was actually a sensitivity reading type comment to remove a sentence that might be not the best to have in the book. So I'm just going to make a note of that, and when I get to it as I'm reading, I will remove that as well. And then my other 2 readers didn't leave me any critique in this particular chapter, so I can just tick them off. And we can tick this off as well. So as I'm going into this chapter, I just need to worry about this particular character that feels wrong, remove that 1 sentence, and also do a generic line edit. Let's get to work. morning. Last night I was able to finish the final 4 chapters in Act 2, and this morning I just started working on the start of Act 3. I'm really happy with how those last 4 chapters turned out. I didn't need to make that many changes today. They were actually pretty good, which I'm taking as a good sign. And I guess to celebrate, I just wanted to take some time to talk to you about YouTube for a little bit. I've been making YouTube videos on and off for about 10 years now on a different channel, and a lot has changed recently. I've got this new camera, I moved into a new flat, and I've just been feeling like I wanted a fresh start on a brand new YouTube channel, which is what you're currently watching. Welcome! This is the first real video I'm filming on this camera, and it's been really fun so far, but at the same time, it's all very new and it's taking me quite a while to figure out how to use it properly and how to set it up. Hopefully it all looks good to you, but if you have any feedback, please do let me know in the comments. I would appreciate any helpful tips that you might have. I've been really excited to get to know my camera better and learn to use it, as well as make a ton of videos about my writing and my books. But on the topic of my books, they're never gonna get finished unless I actually get back to work, so we'd better get started for the day. I've just revised the first 2 chapters in Act 3 and I'm just starting on the 3rd one. The way I normally do revisions, especially in later drafts, is I start by going out of order first, tackling the biggest problems. For example, I might start by looking into the world building and jump across the draft to find every chapter where a particular world building mechanic is present. Or I might be trying to tweak a side character's personality, so I'll look at every chapter where that side character appears. But this is what I would call my draft 5.1. When I'm done with that draft, I go back to the very start of the book and read everything chronologically so that I can fix any issues I introduced by jumping around like a crazy person. This is draft 5.2 and it's what I'm currently working on. So the chapter I've just gotten to is interesting because it's actually brand new. I added it to draft 5.1 when I replaced an old subplot with an entirely new one, and this is effectively my first time reading it as part of the completed draft as opposed to just in isolation. There are 2 things I noticed during this read through, the first one being this chapter's in completely the wrong place. Originally the old subplot spanned a few weeks, whereas this subplot has now been reduced to a couple of hours, but I've kept the location of the chapters where they used to be. So now there's some jumping around of timelines between the subplot and the main plotline, so all of this is going to have to be reshuffled. On a more positive note, however, the second thing I noticed is actually how well written it is. Compared to the surrounding chapters, it's obviously a lot less polished, but given it's a first attempt, I'm actually really happy with the quality of it. And this also makes me really hopeful that I've improved as a writer and that maybe future books won't take as long to write as this one originally did. So I think I figured out my timeline issue, which means it's time for a well-deserved break. I'm just going to be making a couple of oat bars, which I normally do on Sundays so I can take them into work. And while I'm at it, I can chat to you about how the draft is going. So when I say I figured out the timeline issue, I think I figured out the timeline issue. I now have a new problem with the timeline issue. Because these 3 chapters are so one after the other, I've had to put them really close together. And originally my draft is set up to be divided into 9 equal parts, but because I've now added 3 chapters into one of those parts, that's made that part a lot longer than the surrounding ones. And while I think that works really well from a timeline perspective, as in it no longer feels like there's time traveling going on, I'm worried how that's going to affect the overall pacing of the draft. But I'm not going to get to that part in the book where I've inserted that for another few chapters, so I think that's a later problem. I'm missing 2 grams of cocoa powder. The other thing I've been trying to work out is how many chapters I actually need to get done today to stand a reasonable chance of finishing the book by the end of the year. If I want to do 1 chapter per day for the rest of the year, there's 16 days left in the year. I'm trying to subtract 50 grams from the total amount of peanut butter in my head while doing chapter maths out loud. I don't think this is going very well. Give me a second. Okay, that's 50 grams of peanut butter. As I was saying, I have 16 days left in the year and I had 26 chapters left yesterday, of which I've done 6 now, which means I've got 20 chapters left. So it'd be really good if I had 16 chapters left by the end of the day, because then I can do one chapter per day for every day that's left this year, and I'll be able to finish my draft on the last day of 2024. Which means that if I do another 4 chapters today, I'll only have 16 chapters left, and that is what I want. It's almost 3 p.m, so I think I can do another 4 chapters by the evening. It's been a couple of days now, and I figured it was about time that I hop back in here to give you a bit of an outro. First of all, the big question. Did I actually manage to edit 10 chapters in a single weekend? Drumroll, please. No, I did not. However, I did get really close. I was able to do 9 chapters. I don't know how many words that was. I will add it up and put it on the screen. And by the end of that 9th chapter, I was just feeling really tired. And I knew that if I tried to do chapter number 10, I just would not be able to do it justice, so I set it aside for a different day when I might be able to get into it with more brain cells available. However, I had such a lovely time setting aside an entire weekend just to work on my book and fully immerse myself in my story. It was so helpful to just have that big block of time set aside for it, and I'm hopeful that now I've done that bulk of revision work, I will be able to finish the rest by the end of the year as well. If you've made it this far into the video, thank you so much for watching. This is going to be the first video on this new channel, and I am so proud of it. It's been so fun getting to play with my new camera, and I'm so excited to show you guys the result. Please let me know if you're also trying to finish some big goal or milestone on your book by the end of the year we can cheer each other on. I'm hoping to be making weekly videos for the first few weeks after creating this channel so that I can have a little backlog of videos for people to watch. And then once this becomes unsustainable after the holidays, I will be switching to every second week videos with a live stream on the weeks in between. So if you want to find out what I'll be working on in the new year, please feel free to subscribe, and I will see you next week with another video. Bye bye. I have 16 days left in the year,